So to kick things off, I do start with the same boring ass question every time. Simple introduction, man. Who are you, and just a little background on yourself?
Yeah. Well, my name's Grayson. I play guitar and, some other stuff in Lightworker. And yeah, I don't know. I've been, this band's been going on now for about 9 years. I've been playing for longer than that since I was 13. 13th birthday actually. So I can actually pinpoint when people ask me
Yeah.
like, how long have you been playing? It's like, well, I can get really detailed with it. Um, so 2 decades. Starting to feel old. It's fun.
Right. Yeah. I'm
Um,
38, so I feel you.
um, but yeah, man, I don't know. That's it. Like I got a day job too, like,
Right.
all of us and everything, but music is life. So I figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly where I'm at, man. I do the music journalism, I do concert photography, all that shit on the side of the day job. And it's like, you know, much like a musician, I'm just waiting to hit the lottery so that I can transition and do it full time because that's the only way it's going to work, right? Like,
Yeah, it ain't easy.
no, no, it is not. But let's talk a little bit about your journey. Since you can pinpoint it, especially 13 years old, you get your first, I assume, guitar, right?
Hmm.
What's it like? Don't look back there like you still have your original fucking guitar.
I do. It's just not in the boat. I was like,
Oh, okay.
there's a few
That's
that are.
still pretty impressive, though. I mean, so many artists go through and sell just because they don't, it doesn't hold the quality or whatever. So let's talk about this. You get your first guitar at 13. What was kind of even the trigger leading up to that music is something that I want to do? And, obviously, I assume parents bought the guitar to help facilitate that.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I don't remember. Like, I'll actually go back before I was 13. Like, even when I started getting into music, I remember, that was back in the days of CDs, obviously. Cassettes were also like kind of like still a thing. So I remember the very first thing I I used to do like tutoring and stuff. I always said like I didn't need it, but my parents like felt like I did. So I would go to like this, tutoring center, and after like a certain amount of things, like you build up points, and they have like like a bookshelf that has like
Yeah.
prizes on it and everything. So I was eyeing this cassette player. So I remember that just being, like listening to like growing up listening to like the Beatles and like certain things with like my parents around the house, like my first thing was like I just want to be able to listen to my own stuff. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to listen to things on my own time with my own portable, whatever the hell it is. So like getting that, then finally like got a CD player and just started, kind of getting CDs and starting to get into bands. And first, like honestly, like not gonna lie, totally not even embarrassed about it at all. Like first CD I got was the self-titled NSYNC album, and that shit slaps. Like I'm dude, like come on. You know what I mean? Like
I
it,
can't shit on you because the guy I can still remember going into, we had a disc jockey at the
Mhm.
local mall, and I remember going in, the first two CDs I bought, it was a single purchase, was Metallica's Black Album and the fucking Spice Girls.
Hell yeah.
I don't give a fuck. That album was sick.
Yes. Dude,
So I can't shit on you at all for that.
100%, man. No, I love it. Um but yeah, it was just starting, like again, it was just starting to kind of figure out like how do I listen to things on my own time so I can get in my own world and kind of just develop my own tastes and what I like and everything. So that kind of, that went on for a bit. And I think even from an early age, like there's photos of me when I was like 3, or like 2 or 3, and I just like learned to like start walking or whatever. And there's like photos of me holding like an old guitar and stuff and like not knowing what I was doing. But it's like my very first guitar was actually a Junior. It's like a white guitar. I don't even know what the brand is. I do still have that at my parents' house as well. So that was technically the first one. You could plug it in and everything. It actually works. But yeah, so I knew that I wanted to play guitar way before. I kind of just went through peaks and valleys of the musical journey until I eventually got to the point where I was 11, 12, and that's when I was kind of like, okay, like I'm, I kind of at the point where I feel like I should pick up an instrument and actually learn this, because I'm starting to hear like guitar riffs and that's tight, and I kind of want to be able to do that. And for me, funny enough, the motivation was never to get in a band so I could write original songs. That was never a thing. It was literally just, that song that I really like is sick, and I'd love to be able to play that myself. Like I want to
Yeah.
recreate that and be able to say like, oh yeah, that song's dope. I can play it, you know?
Right.
Um, so yeah, so then I think eventually after like a year, or maybe it was even 6 months of like really just telling my parents, like, okay, like I want to actually learn how to play guitar now. I know I have that dinky little guitar over there. It's like that. Okay, let's graduate. Let's actually
Yeah.
teach me how to do this thing. So yeah, got a green Fender, or green Squire Strat for my 13th birthday. Very same day had like group guitar lessons, like with my dad. My dad actually decided to buy his own guitar and like go do it with me,
Yeah.
which was cool. He lasted the 4 sessions, and then became a collector of things, as he is. Um, and so yeah, so that was it. I did 4 group lessons. The only thing, like, the instructor was really good, but it was one of those kind of like fast, like, oh, you do this and you do that, and then like here's a sheet, and this is how you learn how to read tabs, and she's like, okay, do the song. I'm just like, what, dude?
Yeah.
So after 4 group lessons, I literally just learned, this is a fret, this is where you put your finger to change the sound of the string,
Hmm.
and this is how you read tabs. And I was just like, cool, building blocks, I'm good.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then the rest of it, like, I had another guitar instructor for like a few sessions who was like really, really good, and that was a little bit further down the line. But I mean, I'm pretty much just self-taught. I didn't really do to like, one of the things that did not drive me whatsoever was like, be disciplined and learn scales. Like, dude, I want to have fun. Like, fuck that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll like, give me a song that's easy enough within my skill level that I can reach it to achieve another skill level, but I have motivation because it sounds sick. Not because,
Right.
oh, look at me, I can play this scale at like 120 beats per minute. Like, I don't give a shit about that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how I learned. I like literally, there was a point where I knew how to play front to back like 200 songs or something from 50 different plus artists, and that's
Right.
how I learned how to play guitar. And I would just do that. Got to a point sometime in high school that I would just be doing that every day after school for 3 to 5 or 6 hours, just
Yeah.
learning songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned tabs, which is how most people initially start. Are you like me? I'm music illiterate, but I can hear something. Like, I'm a by ear learner.
Mm.
And so, like, I used to play bass guitar in high school and stuff, and in marching band and concert band. And I would have to tell my band director, like, don't set any fucking music in front of me. I need you to, like, tell me what you want it to sound like, or, whatever. And he would grab a trumpet and play what he wanted me to be playing on bass guitar. And I'd be like, okay, cool, got it. Boom, got, and would go through. So, like, classical, like, reading sheet music, I can't fucking do.
Yeah, if I sat down and took a really long time, I could do it. And that's because, so when I went to college, I got a degree in business.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually, and I went to St. Mary's in California, where a lot of people know us because of our basketball team, because we're a
Yeah,
D1 school. But funny enough, our student body is like 2,500 people. So the fact that we're a D1 sports school with like
is
50
insane.
something D1 sports teams is freaking ridiculous. But yeah, so I went there, and I got a degree in business, but I went to the head of the business department and the head of the music department, and basically said, look, my roommate told me that this is a thing, so I'm gonna see what's up. I was like, I don't want to do a double major, and I don't want to choose between the two, but I heard there's something called a split major. And so it was like, okay, so basically what I did is I worked with them to create my own major. So on my diploma, it says business, but if
Yeah.
people like ask and look into like my actual coursework, there's like a third of that, which is upper division music and music theory and like all of that stuff. So, I just wanted to be I wanted an excuse to do more music stuff, and if I could do that by making it easier to get like a degree by doing other things that I also like audio production and like a bunch of other things, like then I was going to do that. So that's what I did. That's the only reason that I know how to
Yeah.
very poorly sight read or any music theory stuff that I know. Because by the way, hardest class that I had to do in college, none of the business classes, none of that stuff. Music theory, the first upper division music theory class kicked my ass. I've never studied more in my life with people having to be like, wait, how do you like it? That's insane. Anyone that can do that, I give major props to because that was the hardest class I took in college.
Yeah. It's insane. I have had several artists on that have been, freshly graduated from like Berkeley and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And you're not alone. There's a lot of them that even go to a music school and are like, man, fuck music theory. This is bullshit. Like,
Yep.
especially in like, and I think this is probably part of it for you too. If you're not going down one of the classical avenues, right? I'm
Mhm.
not playing classical music. I'm not playing jazz. I'm
Yep.
in an alternative music space. Music theory is out the fucking window.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like yeah, I don't need to learn how to sight read, not trying to like jump around to a bunch of bands. Like I've been in two bands in my life, this being one,
Yeah.
so it's like I never really had the urge to of like, oh, I need to like learn these songs super quick, was never really any position that I was in. Um, but yeah, like yeah, didn't know how to do any of that. Like, I feel like where the theory more so comes into play is creating moods, just like knowing
Mm-hmm.
modes, knowing like what chords, like chord progressions, like within a certain key, being able to like know that you can resolve to a different chord that's not like the tonic or something just to create a certain vibe, like that kind of stuff I still kind of go back to, when we're writing certain
Yeah.
things, being like, oh, like I totally forgot about this, but not this, not the sight reading or any of
Yeah.
that.
No. My I give major props to the band director that I had because he literally told me one day he set the music in front of me and I can read it well enough to know like the core concept of what I should be playing, right? Like obviously I know these are low notes, these are high notes, this is the way it's going to sound.
Mhm.
Um, but he literally told me one day, he goes, Josh, I don't care if you're playing the wrong fucking note, play it to that groove and we'll be okay. Your bass guitar, like you just have to have the right rhythm and time to make this feel right.
Mhm.
Okay, I can do that. I'll fucking just random improv note the rest of this whole fucking song. I don't care.
Yep.
Um, yeah, he was great. So, coming out of college and starting quote unquote real life. How did music come back into the forefront of that for you?
It never left. So, when I was in high school, I joined my first band, which is with a friend of mine. Like we went to high school together, and yeah, so I basically like that band had started like a year before, but it was kind of still in like the this is our first band kind of stages, and
Mm-hmm.
him and I would hang out a lot, and I also was learning to play guitar, around the same time as him. And it just turned into one of those things where I ended up getting into the band. It just made more sense, I guess. The guitarist at the time ended up like going to singer, and like him and the drummer were brothers, and so it's like
Yeah.
that's how I got into like the first band. And I was literally in that band for almost 10 years. So went from being a garage band as kids to so that band was called Letters from the Fire, and I parted with them back at like the very, very beginning of 2015. A year or within a month of that point, I was in this band. So I had a one month gap.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was with them for like 10 years, and did a bunch of stuff there too, which was super cool. Like toured with like Pop Evil and Non-Point. We were even on that Trapped self-titled 10-year anniversary tour. Which just, as a kid, like the nostalgia behind that record, that very first one was still like,
And that was
it's real.
yeah, that was before he was just a blatant asshole to everybody online and blocking people and starting political drama and all that too. So it's
Yeah,
okay.
before things changed a bit.
Before he went crazy. Like let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So then Lightworker becomes a thing, right?
Yep.
Let's talk about kind of the importance of that for you. I'm not talking badly about the other band because obviously you guys were doing stuff, but was there a mindset shift between the previous band and this where it's like, I don't just want this to be a hobby anymore. Like, I really want to pursue this becoming what we do.
Yeah, I think that was a mentality in both. It's just the so in this one, um, like this feels like for Joe and I both, like this feels like our baby, you know.
Yeah.
The one before never really could feel that way for me, to be honest, just because I know for the most part it was like following direction of like someone else who was kind of like their thing, and it's it's like
Yeah.
that makes sense and whatnot. But in this one, it's like this is really the first band where like that our first record where I was kind of like, I have a lot of stuff that I want to get out that's been pent up for years and years and years. And the first record, at least musically, was very largely that. Um, so yeah, just this one is just much more being able to write, for lack of a better way to say it, like write the things that I want to write, that
Yep.
I've always wanted to, um, which is great. And yeah, definitely just kind of, starting it again from the ground up, and just it really felt like we were all building it together, which was great. Especially like me and Joe, we've been doing this since the beginning when the band started in 2015. Um, so that whole thing, I don't know, it's like how rewarding it feels is like on a different spectrum, I want to say,
Yeah.
just because it feels, for lack of a better way to say it, feels like much more like grassroots. Like we were like in the trenches doing the whole
Right.
thing, figuring all of it out. Um, you know, like creating an LLC, buying your own van, figuring out all the tax implications in California, like all that stuff that's not that fun, but makes you feel like an adult, like, even outside of the music.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, different level of appreciation, I guess. Yeah, it's been a ride.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think that's something that newer bands I don't think about early enough, right? Like
Mhm.
creating an LLC, doing some of this stuff in a tax shelter that you don't really realize what that does for you. Like everybody wants to be, it'd be a perfect world if you could just go out and play music and make money, like, and didn't have to worry about the back end. But the truth is, you have to worry about the back end.
Mhm.
And it protects you in so many, the LLC alone protects you in so many ways where now your cabinet falls over and breaks somebody's foot. Well, the band can be sued, but not me, and that helps some of that stuff. And it's those weird little things that, really play a big factor. And I think that's the importance of when you recognize like this project matters, this is what we're going to push for, we want to elevate it, we have to lay those back end processes in place.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, especially before we got signed and everything. It was just,
Right.
one of those things where it's like, yeah, no, like, there is a lot to kind of look into to make sure that you're doing things legit. And you're right, like not kind of just getting lost in the clouds of we just want to like be in a band and have fun and play music, which yes, like I think that at least for me, it's like I know in our group, it's like if we're not having fun doing what we're doing, then there's no there we have no business doing it. Like
Yeah.
especially this. It's not like something where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go do this thing that I hate, but it's gonna make me a lot of money. It's like you gotta love this. Like, I mean, obviously, does it have the potential? Yes. Do you want to look at the numbers of like the odds definitely not being in your favor? It's like, yeah, you gotta love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like my joke earlier about the lottery, right? Like that's basically making it in the music industry nowadays too, because I forget the exact stat. It's something like 60,000 songs every day are pushed to Spotify and streaming services. And it's like,
Yep.
you've got as as easy as the world has become digitally to put your stuff out there, it's a double-edged sword because now your competition level has just risen by that same amount.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's like I know sometimes it's like a cliche. It can be a cliche thing for like when like bands when you meet someone from a band or like they tell you like, hey man, like we really appreciate your support, like thanks for coming out. And it could just seem like the wash, rinse, repeat thing that's said, but it's like I really hope people know that, especially for a band like us, and if you're not Metallica and you're not like
Right.
these huge bands, and even those,
Taylor Swift.
yeah, it's like we mean that,
Right.
because it's like the amount of oversaturation in the market nowadays, nothing like what we grew up with, you know what I mean? It is like a
Yeah.
whole new thing that we're kind of like all figuring out together, but it's like that, like it really does mean a lot when someone's like, dude, like I checked out your song and I came to the show. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's sick. Like, that's freaking awesome. Like we really do appreciate that. It does mean a lot. So, glad that people do that still. That's really
For,
nice.
yeah, for sure. And I think, something that kind of clicked when you said it is, that it is so much different than when we were growing up. I don't think I've sat down and thought about this before this conversation, so this is cool. But like the local music scenes have changed so much; they're almost non-existent anymore. And I think it probably has a lot to do with this sort of thing, where like, well, my stuff's on Spotify, and I get the most listeners from Dallas, Texas, so that's my scene, quote unquote. Like, no, you're still playing shows in Indianapolis. Like, play
Mhm,
those shows, be in that scene.
mhm.
It's easy to get lost in the grandeur of, oh, somebody in Japan listened to my song. Well, that's fucking dope. Don't I'm not taking that away from you,
Yeah.
but you're not touring Japan tomorrow because of that.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Like, and I do think that that is a big part of it. And so it's just really, yeah, it's been interesting to see even within our area, just remembering the local scene back in like 2007, 2008, right? Versus now. And, it's like it's like two different lives almost.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, especially from one band to the next, kind of like, had to like rediscover the scene in a lot of ways. And it's just like, oh, like, yeah, it's basically like a whole nother start. So it's
yeah,
wild.
yeah. It is for sure. You mentioned getting signed. Let's talk about it. You guys are with Solid State Records. First off, fucking incredible lineup that they have, right?
Oh yeah.
How much time went into that decision when those conversations started happening, and you're like, man, Solid State's talking to us because they've got a fucking reputation.
Yeah, and we're like first we're so grateful for like everything that the label has done, like like Adam, Tyson, Marshall, like all the people over there, Anna, like they're all freaking they've been awesome. It's funny. So my old band Joe was also in for a bit, funny enough. He was the bass player.
Okay, yeah,
So that's how him and I knew each other. And so when he was kind of like starting this up in the very, very early stages and found out that I was not there anymore, he was just like, you know.
right.
Um, and so him and I have been doing that. But yeah, Joe actually is the one that introduced me to Solid State back in like 2007. So
Yeah,
it's kind of funny coming full circle a little bit because like Joe's been a Solid State guy. Like he was a Solid State kid. You know what I
right.
mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
he like he knows slash knew like all the like the Acid Eats Burn guys, the like Oh Sleeper, Destroy the Runner back in the day, like a bunch of people like on that label and a bunch of bands, and so he's been a fan of the like a very dedicated and like good fan of the label from an early age. So the fact that we're on the label now is kind of like I have to like remember that sometimes of like how
Right.
how everything's come full circle. And so when we were after we released our EP, and we were writing the first record, the the intention on the first record was that we were not going to self-release it. And that was also something that I really, I think Joe and I were on the same page about this, but I remember like when we were talking about the first record, I remember being like, so we're going to do this record, but we're like, let's like come to agreement. We're not self-releasing this thing, right? Like let's try to make it so that that is not the goal, but the goal is to pitch this
Right.
and hopefully have a label like put this out. So when we were working on it, we were working from pretty much the beginning when we started like working with someone else, right after like the initial
Mm-hmm.
song ideas and whatnot. Like we worked with Dan Gailey from he was touring with Fit a little bit at that time, but he was like still just a member in Phineas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we actually like saw Phineas play in Petaluma, and I think Dan had met Joe once, but we kind of like saw him there, and then that's where I met him and everything. And you know, we showed a couple singles. We started like talking about like the record and everything, and Dan was kind of just like, yeah, like I'll, you know, let me do your record. Like we'll do it. And just like, all right.
Yeah.
So we did all of the music. Like musically, he produced the first record, and we did that with him. And um, so from that point as well, it was kind of always like Solid State was kind of on our minds since then, really.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there was a point where like one of the songs on our first record, Remove the Earth, was like the first one that we finished. Dan actually had sent the full instrumental done version of that to Adam, our current A&R, like a year or more before he heard the rest of the record. So we were in he, you know, we were kind of like on the radar then. So
Yeah.
when we had like finished up the record and we had like management at that point, and it was we had gone to like Bo from Seosin who did like the vocal production and the vocal tracking and the mixing before we even had it mastered. This is like before my 30, like the weekend of my 30th birthday. I'm like preparing stuff and everything. And you know, because our manager at the time, Chris, was in a band called 100 Sons with Corey from Norma Jean.
Mm-hmm.
So Corey actually kind of like inadvertently started the pitch without knowing. Like, I think he was talking to Adam about something with like Norma Jean, and then Adam said something that's like, yeah, is there anything else? And then he was just like, oh yeah, Chris like mentioned that there's like a band he's working with that you should check out or something. And then I don't know, like, you know, if any of these guys hear this, they might be like, oh, that's not how it went down. But like, this is
Right.
generalization, right? But then basically, like, Adam gets hit up, or no, Chris gets hit up by Adam. And so like Chris literally like is on Facebook Messenger, like he's in Canada, he's on Facebook Messenger to go like, hey, are any of you guys there? Like this is happening right now. And I just see it and I'm like setting up for everything. And I'm just like, oh shit. And Joe's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm like, okay, cool. And so basically, um, we just send the record unmixed, and we just like, all right, well, here it is. I think it clicked later on that Adam was like, oh, this is the band that like Dan was like has been like talking about and like showing me and everything. So it's like kind of all came together.
Yeah.
But yeah, like 2 weekends later, um, you know, we're driving down to a friend's wedding in Santa Barbara, and on that drive, we have like the conference call with Adam about Solid State. And basically at the end of that call, it was pretty much just like, okay, like we'll send contracts over, take a look and everything. Like it happened pretty fast, to be honest. Like it was
Yeah.
basically like 2 weeks, like one day we're basically like, okay, like we want to pitch to Solid State, and 2 weeks later we're getting contracts like sent over. So it was kind of wild and like super cool. But yeah, anyways, that's how that happened. I don't know how long I've been talking for, but
Totally fine. It's a cool story because I think it goes back to something that I've said. We're coming up. I think you guys are episode like 194. So I've talked to a few bands on this podcast, right? And like
yeah.
I said earlier, I've been doing this 20 years. So one of the things I always tell people, especially in younger bands, is the power of networking. Like, put your
Mhm.
name out there. Don't be afraid to shake hands. Don't cut people out because you never know who's going to open that next door for you. And I
Yeah.
think that's a prime example where like Dan is just on board to do the record with you and kind of work with you, but it, whether it's intentional or not, opens this door to Adam, and then that opens another door, and you're just going, oh shit, like if we would have kept our mouth shut and not asked Dan to help us, make this record, like would we have ever gotten down this hallway?
Right. No, exactly. And I think at least for me, I think an important distinction as well is like when we reached out to Dan to like do the record, it's because we genuinely love like what he did, you know?
Right.
So it's also like
Don't do
don't
it
do
to
it like,
reach.
hey, I'm gonna use you to X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. So yeah, we love what he did, and then it just, it's like it just ended up kind of like working out that way. And one of my favorite things too, it's like, Dan and I are like close friends now too at this
Yeah.
point. Worked with us on the second one, but also it's like, dude's gonna be in my wedding in October. And he's actually the
Yeah.
first guy that I asked. Funny enough, we were tracking the Crawling in the Dark cover. So this was like 2.5 years ago.
Right.
Before I even proposed to my fiance, I asked him if he would be in my wedding, and he said yes. We were recording the Crawling in the Dark cover in this room. Like he's flown out here and
Yeah.
like stay with us, and we record most try to record like a lot of stuff in here, I kind of just have set up. And I remember it was like him and I just having beers late, like 1:30 to 3 a.m, having some like craft IPAs and whatnot, getting a little funky. And yeah, I just remember it was then I was just like, we were just talking about stuff. I was like, dude, like, it's like, you be in my wedding? He's like, dude, 100%. Fuck yeah, man.
Now I just have to buy a ring. I have to ask her. I have to make sure this goes down.
Yeah, I was like, hold on, all right, so I'll tell you when. It might be like a couple of years, but like, but yeah. So that's another thing. It's like, yeah, you network and whatnot, but also it's like that's just how you meet really cool freaking people,
Yeah.
like, so you meet really good friends that way as well. So there's a lot of benefit. It's good for your health. It's good for your life.
It for sure is. And I think that's one of the things is, you know, I think it's been changing over, especially the last few years post COVID. Like,
Hmm.
but I think the past, I'm trying to word this appropriately. Previously, there was a lot of gatekeepers and a lot of competition and egos. I
Mm.
think COVID did remove a lot of that, where bands just want to see bands doing well because it means the scene's doing well. It means the industry's doing well. So we can all do better.
That is a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, because especially after COVID, we kind of all got somewhat to a certain extent. Like obviously people are still bigger than others and like everything, but it's like it kind of did all lump into the state of the industry. And
Mhm.
they kind of like pinpointed on that for a bit. So yeah, no, actually I never thought about that. That's cool.
Yeah. So let's talk about the new record. You've got How the Beautiful Decay is dropping April 19th.
Mhm.
So talk a little bit about going into this record, deciding the creative direction, because I think something that you guys do really well is you're not Nickelback. It's not the same record every time. You don't have the same riffs and half the songs. So there's obvious intentionality with what you're doing. What was it like when you sat down and were like, okay, what does LP2 look like? How do we do this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate that. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
um, so we I feel like we generally at least have some sort of semblance or idea of what we want the next thing to be, partially because Joe loves to talk about things way too freaking early. I'm just kidding. It's one of those things where it's like he's always thinking. It's always
Yeah.
cooking. It's like before this record even had like a release date or like we even had music videos. It's like, all right, so for the next one, I was like, yeah, okay.
Right.
um, but yeah, so for um, the first one, when Joe and I were talking about like direction and everything for the first one, there was talk of like, okay, how do we synthesize this into like a specific direction? Um, and I'm actually the one that kind of came in from a different perspective, and that's when I was kind of like, okay, um, I was like, what if, for a couple of reasons, The first album, we don't try to go, it's going to be like this, it's
Yeah.
going to be like pinpointed in a specific like direction, and we're trying to like do this specific thing. Um, for two reasons. One, the EP was written by Joe and our good friend Nick Lacono, who's like he's a producer and an engineer up at Fang Studios in San Mateo. The guy's a beast. He's freaking great. Um, but when the band started, it was kind of like they wrote that first one, filled in the rest of the pieces with me and the guitar player and our drummer and everything. But so after that, it was like me and Joe, and this was kind of like that first album, Fury by Failure, was like the one where, okay, like I'm coming in and gonna kind of like write and do my thing. And that's when I had the conversation with Joe, is like, hey, what if the first one we kind of just use almost like a canvas, right? Like a painter's I don't what whatever the hell those
Yeah,
things.
I don't know what the palette, is
Yeah,
that what that's called?
we'll use it as our palette, right? We'll kind of establish these are all of the different flavors that us as Lightworker like to do. Also, so that when we go to the next one, we at least have a wide palette to choose from. So it's not like, oh, we were this, and on the next record we did this, and it's like, oh, that's not you guys. It's like, oh, but there's some of
Right.
that on the first one, right? So that was one, and also just so that I could get a lot of stuff out and not really like overthinking. I was like, oh well, like what should we write? Just more so just free forming, like let's write songs that we like, and if we
Yeah.
really like them, they'll be on the record. I think there's only one song that we ended up doing that we didn't finish that wasn't on the record, but other than that, it's like all of them were there.
Yeah.
Um, so what happened for this one is that's when we even knew back then when we were writing the first one. The second one we're gonna directionally pinpoint a little bit more. And we kind of knew right after the first record that the second one, we weren't gonna go away from the melody at all. Like that's baked into us. It's ingrained in who we are. We still like that. But we also knew that everything around it, we wanted it to get a little heavier. We wanted some things to get a little bit faster. We wanted it to, I don't know, just kind of bring a little bit more energy and intensity and kind of just up the ante a bit.
Mhm.
So we knew from the beginning that that's what we were going to do on this next one. But even the title, I remember, like right after the first record, Joe started talking about, started thinking about like, okay, like lyrically, like what do I want to tackle on the next one? Not even knowing what the songs sound like, but knowing that directionally we kind of wanted to go in that, you know, heavier, maybe even a little bit darker, more like
Yeah.
melancholy, you know what I mean? And so he told me, it was like, I think on the next record, thematically, a lot of the things that I want to write about all tie together with the subject of decay. Moment he said that, I was like, How the Beautiful Decay. Done.
Yeah.
So we knew the title of the record at least a year before we even started writing the damn thing.
Yeah.
As, a,
Which
as
is
opposed
insane.
as opposed to Fury, which we came up with that at the very end when it was done and like even mixed and all that.
Hmm.
And this one was the exact opposite. So we actually had the title of the record as a sort of North Star during the entire process.
Yeah.
That was something that I know Joe and I would like come back to periodically, just musically and also lyrically, just thinking about like continuity, but also not making sure that everything's not the same. But it's like we like the idea of having things kind of flow together as like a piece of work, like even Fury, even though all those songs were written and there's some that are like, like heavier, and there's some that are like even softer, like Cholera and everything, but it still thematically all made sense in some way, shape, or form, like how we tied it together. It's like, I don't know. We
Yeah.
like that stuff. We're album guys.
Yeah. See, and I'm an album guy, and that actually is a perfect segue over to my next question, which is I'm very much on the mindset. I make all my friends do it, and they fucking hate me for it. If I send them an album to listen to, they know the rules are the first 3 times they listen to it, it has to be front to back. How important is that for you as an artist? Obviously, singles get thrown out, stuff like that. But once the complete work is out, how important is it for you for people to at least give it one or two shots front to back?
I think it's pretty important. Like we do make sure that the flow, um, I almost feel like we spend more time thinking about the flow of the record than we do picking singles. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we have an idea when we're writing it, when songs are being done, and we're kind of like, okay, like I can see that because of this and that because of this. But we are thinking, even when we were writing, like the first song on this record, when we wrote it, we knew we were writing the first song on the album. Like that didn't get placed there after the album was done. It's like we knew that the
Right.
first song was the first song, and we also knew that the last song was the last song. And that was very intentionally written that way. And so even if you just look at the bookends,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think listening to the album front to back at least once, there is intention in how that flows as a body of work. Um, and I feel like, not everyone gets everything, but I feel like, there are people that'll understand that, especially once they hear the last song on the record. And then like looking back, it's like that the whole thing uh is intentional. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always tell people the first one is for you to just do that surface listen, kind of make mental notes of like, oh, that song really grabbed me, or that was a cool thing, whatever.
Mm.
Number two is that intentional listen where you're like really paying attention. You're not playing it at the office where you're busy with other work. Like you're listening to this album. And
Right.
then number three is usually the lyric dive, right? Like
Mm.
what's he actually saying? Like what's the message of this song?
Right.
And like I said, I've got friends that they fucking hate me for it because I'm very much that person that if it's an album that I love and I send it to you, I want more than just, yeah, man, it was cool. Like, no, I need you to fucking give me a fucking dissertation on this thing. Like,
Yeah. Uh,
yeah.
dude,
So,
totally.
yeah. Um, so one of the questions I always ask when a new body of work is coming out too, it's a two-part question. Number one, what song do you think people are going to gravitate to? And the other side of that is what song do you hope that they gravitate to?
Dang.
They're almost never the same song. That's why I ask it that way.
Yeah, I like that. Um, well, so funny enough, I think that the first two singles that we put out also, those were actually the two songs when we started talking to the label about singles. Um, we put First Light and Burn Scar out. The order was actually supposed to be switched and we changed it. Um,
Okay.
but but yeah, so those were definitely two where it's like feel like people are really going to dig these, and we pitched them. It's like because Adam asked like, what are you guys thinking for singles? And so we said those, and pretty much just like I totally agree.
Yeah.
So definitely those. I think for people that like First Light, I feel like Mea Culpa, the sixth track, is one
Mm-hmm.
going to be one that people gravitate towards too, or towards as well. I can't talk today. Um,
You're just doing a podcast. It's fine.
yeah. Uh, um, but yeah, I mean, maybe that one. I mean, gosh, it's hard to choose. But yeah, maybe that one. For people that really liked the kind of nostalgic flair that was on Fury, I think that Blurred Vision track 8 people might like. But then the one that I hope that people kind of latch on to is the title track, the last song.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's very different for us. Um, but again, that was one that we intentionally wrote like as the last song, and we had a lot of fun with it. That was also the last song that we finished on the album. So the title track being the North Star that we kind of like that name that we use going through the whole process, and that being the last one that we wrapped up. And that was me and Joe at the studio at Fang with our buddy Nick, and our buddy Kevin, kind of just like finishing that there together. Like that was so cool. Um, but yeah, that one's a special one. So I hope that people get through the entire record and kind of are able to get to that song and like attach to it because Yeah. I like
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, for sure. So with that one being that bookend and the last song, do you feel like that influenced the way that you guys wrote it so that it could be the finality of the album?
Um, I don't know if it was like super intentional, like just that thinking. Um, we were, as we were writing songs, we were kind of looking at, you know, we were looking at like, okay, what do we have? Looking at this in the scope of a record, do we feel like there's anything missing? Like all of that stuff. But I don't think so. Funny enough, I think that we knew structurally, and you'll know when you hear it, we knew how we wanted the last song on the record to flow. And we even had like one or two examples from like songs and bands like a while ago.
Yeah.
We kind of like even used to kind of just even as inspiration, but just the way that it flows and builds is kind of like always what we had in mind. So yeah, I don't know how much it affected the writing of the other songs. I think it was, again, it was more so just looking at the collection of work each time we had a new song and kind of just seeing like, okay, we're staying true to kind of this direction that we had, but at the same time, like, what are the little spices that are in there that we maybe need a little bit more of, or throw this in and try to make it work as long as the song's having it, you know?
Yeah.
That probably was more of it.
Yeah. And that makes total sense. I mean, obviously you never want to or rarely want to like this is the exact thing that we're going to do. So
Mhm.
now let's stuff it into the box and make it fit so that this is it feels like it's supposed to be the end. Like if it doesn't feel like it, then it doesn't feel like it. That's fine. If it's what the song needs, you know what I mean? I think that's the big thing. And I think some bands lose sight of that sometimes where I won't shit on any one band specifically like I did Nickelback, but you get so put in that box or like that mental state of like, okay, we're a pop band. We have to write this in this way for it to work. And it's like, no, you don't. Like if the vibe needs to change, if the BPM needs to change, whatever it is, then do it to make the emotion come across.
Right. Yep. I back that.
Yeah. Awesome. So you've got a few more shows coming up with Eyes Set to Kill here at the end of the month.
Yes.
Big fan of them. Back in the MySpace days is when I discovered Eyes Set to Kill. So
Uh,
million, I shouldn't say that. They've had a few lineup changes and all that, but what's it like, with someone that is oddly very well established in this type of scene,
mhm.
but also still flying under the fucking radar somehow.
Mhm. Um, Honestly, it's been really cool. It's been great. They've been like so great to us and everything. I mean, for me personally, it's actually like a little bit of like a reunion thing because I actually did tour with them back in 2014.
Yeah.
So it was cool to kind of just be like, hey, like, almost 10 years later,
Right.
like stoked to go back out again. So it's been really cool to kind of jump on with them, and especially doing like the 15 years of Reach, like
Mm-hmm.
just very big like nostalgia kick. And I think that that was like a really important era, I know, for me and for Joe and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel like everyone on the tour, so just all of that coming together and being able to do multiple runs of it with them as well has been really cool. So we're really thankful to them for liking us and bringing us out with them on
Yeah,
multiple runs. So it's been awesome.
yeah, yeah. They're one of those bands that, like I said, I discovered them way back in the fucking MySpace days. I've got a piece of art. Hang on. Alex Lopez and Alexa drew this piece of art for me
Okay.
way back in the day. It's this
Oh,
hand painted thing on fucking a nice little wood. They did this weird series.
that's
Um,
it's numbered.
they did 6 of those
Yeah.
as commissions, and it was just it hangs over there above the bookcase. So Big fan of them is basically the point to that story.
That's awesome.
And they're a band that, you know, like I said, they're flying under people's radars to this day for some reason.
Hmm.
And they're just so fucking talented. And I don't get it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Absolutely crazy.
yeah, I don't know, but they're great people. They're, I'm in these shows that we've been doing have been awesome. Uh, like the whole last run and everything, like the whiskey and out in Hollywood was packed on Oscar Sunday. Yeah, it was great. It was a really cool show. A lot of people came out. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome and it's awesome just to see them play again as well. It's been really cool.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of as we push towards the end here, I refuse to think of better ending questions. So I bought this game. It's called Hot Takes. We're just going to ask a couple of these. They're like shitty opinions and whatnot.
Do it.
And yeah, we'll see what you agree with, what you disagree with. If you want to expand on something, whatever.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's go with. I think this is a no-brainer, but I'd rather lose all the money that I've made. It says this year, but I'd rather lose all the money I've made rather than losing all the memories I've gained.
Oh yeah, money. Like I would lose the money. I'm not.
Yeah. I knew what you meant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
to me that one's a no-brainer. Like, sure, it's corporate America, right? Like, it would suck to have nothing money wise,
Yeah.
but I would not give up all my memories so that I had the money that I've made.
Hmm. No.
So yeah,
What's the point?
right. Yeah. What am I wasting my money on if I don't have the memories to waste it
Yeah, exactly. It's like part of the reason is so that you can, make it easier to like have a life. But if there's no life to have, then what's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go with it would be better to be deaf than to be blind.
Damn it. Ah, shit. That one's real. Oh, I
That
mean,
one's definitely tougher.
yeah. Um, I mean, you think like, oh, like you're a musician, you do music, like that's like obviously you would go blind, right? It's like, I mean, yeah, that's probably my answer, but like, God, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I'm just like neither. Um, but yeah, I mean, probably that I would say. Um, Man, I don't even know. I'm gonna go with that for
Yeah.
now, but I mean, I could probably vary my opinion on that depending on the day.
Yeah, I think mine would too. I think it feels like it's easier to say that I would rather go blind because I love music so much and I could still have normal conversations and things like that. But on the other hand, like, not to be like weird sentimental, there's a lot of fucking beauty in the world if you just
Yeah,
stop to take a look at it.
yeah,
So I don't know, it'd be weird. Like, I can't imagine, and I've never been to the Grand Canyon, but I can't imagine going to the Grand Canyon and just having someone describe it to you and it having the same impact as seeing the Grand
right.
Canyon.
Yep, yep.
We'll go with a little bit of a weird one here. Jasmine is the hottest of the Disney princesses.
Ooh, ooh. Are we talking animated or like the real life ones?
Hey, we'll add the real ones into it too. Let's make it a little safer for us.
Um,
I couldn't honestly. I don't know that I could name a lot of them past the early 2000s. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
obviously we all know the originals, but
right.
they've had Anna and Elsa. I guess technically are Disney princesses now, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm cheating. I'm looking it up.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now too.
Yeah, Cinderella, Belle, Snow White, Ariel, Moana, Merida, Mulan, Rapunzel, Tiana. Oh yeah, Princess and the Frog, Aurora, Pocahontas, Jasmine. I put Raya on here from Raya and the Last Dragon. Interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
Elsa, Sleeping Beauty. Oh, oh. But Aladdin is not a princess name. What's going on?
Well, it's
uh
2024. We can't say that he's not.
Meg from Hercules.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it's sure,
It, it
that's fine.
it's subjective. We
Yeah,
get it.
that's fine.
Yeah, I think she's up there in the rankings.
Mhm. Yeah, you throw in the live action ones too. It's like, yeah, it's okay.
Right. Let's see. We'll do like one or two more here. Let's go
Go.
with middle names are pointless,
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
right?
Well,
Like,
I don't know. How many people have like a generic first name and a generic last name at that
right.
point?
And I think that's when they matter for
Yeah.
sure. I other than legal documents, I couldn't tell you the last time I told somebody my middle name just as my like part of my introduction or anything.
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm even thinking like here, like there is a guy and like, my name's not super common, but there is another Grayson Hurd, same exact spelling on both first and last name, who is the head brewer at Cool Crafted Beverage somewhere in the US. Like I just found him on
Okay.
LinkedIn, Google search. So
Yeah.
yeah, middle names matter.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Let's see. We'll go with for the last one. Um, let's. I'm literally just grabbing through these cards. I don't know. Let's go with ketchup is the best condiment.
Mm-mm.
You were quick on that.
No, because right when you said ketchup, I was like, I already know what the best condiment is.
Are
So
you
I'm
a mustard guy?
no, I'm oh wait, so are we talking about like the standard three of like ketchup, mustard, and mayo, or we
I'll open it to all doors. Yeah, we can go
okay.
whatever.
So everyone in the Bay Area knows this, but there is a taqueria called La Victoria that has like 4 or 5 locations here in the Bay, and their orange sauce is the best condiment. It's just
That's
I just don't know. It's there's something about it.
that's fair. Hey,
That's it.
that's totally fair. Within that, let's ask this because I've seen this debate on TikTok.
Hmm.
Since you brought up like hot sauces slash salsa, hot sauce, does it go in the fridge after you open it, or do you leave it in the cabinet?
Depends on which hot sauce,
See, I
right?
said the same thing, and I had friends that are like, "No, they all go in the fridge," and I'm like,
No.
"No, certain hot sauces literally don't say they need to be refrigerated; they
Yeah.
go back in the cabinet."
Now, if that's your preference, then like sure, you want a colder hot sauce. I also think that's just
So I'm gonna put a cold like honestly, I
yeah.
have that problem with anything. I'm gonna put cold ketchup on a fucking hot hamburger. Like it doesn't make sense to me anyway. It's gonna get warm anyway.
Yeah, no, I like certain things like if it's like Cholula, Tapatio, like no, put that back in the cupboard, but
Yeah.
yeah, other ones, yeah, you just I don't know. You figure it out. You try it hot and you try it cold, and then you just see what does it for you. And that's it.
Right.
That's the
And
answer.
just double check it for growth to be sure. But most of them, most hot sauces do not say that they need to be refrigerated. So
Yep.
I say don't do it.
Yep.
Uh, so as we transition to the end here, obviously I'll link all the socials and everything. I've had a great time talking with you, bud.
You
Um,
too, man.
but
Thank
let's do kind of the standard outro, right? Like where can people find you guys? What do they need to know? Anything we didn't talk about tour wise that you're allowed to announce? Don't get in trouble with the label or PR. But yeah, what's the rest of the year look like, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I mean, and you can find us on all the standard socials, right? So like we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X, whatever the hell we're calling it now.
It's
Yeah,
always Twitter to me. Fuck them.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, it's so twitter.com, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we're on YouTube and all that stuff. So yeah, we got all that stuff up there. We got music videos for our first 2 singles off How the Beautiful Decay, First Light, and Burn Scar, both on the Solid State YouTube. Um, If you go on ours, there's like drum playthrough. There's a little guitar one coming soon. I don't know when this is going to go out, but it might already be up there.
This will be up. You can keep talking. I'll figure out when this is going live here.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so we're on all those socials, so you can find us there. It should be a simple search. And then yeah, so we're going out with I Set to Kill on these 4 runs. And or it's 4 runs. We're going out with I Set to Kill on these 4 shows. Albuquerque, Denver, Grand Junction, Vegas. That's happening this weekend. And then in May, we announced a tour with Dreamwake and our buddies in Red Keep. So that is going to be, I think it's like May 3rd through May 11th. So it's basically California shows, Arizona show, and then just Texas Sunbelt tour. So we're doing that at the beginning of May. And yeah, we're working on other things, but we do have Capulet Fest announced over in Connecticut. So, I know it's not the whole East Coast, but people have been asking for the East Coast. We are going out there. We're doing Capulet Fest. So that should be cool. But yeah, other than that, stay tuned for other things that we're working on to try to get out to places.
Yeah. That's dope, man. It looks like this will be going live next Wednesday. So the I Set to Kill stuff you'll have already been completed on. But I think it's cool because I feel like it's early enough in the year, right? Not all the tours are set for the year.
Yeah.
There's still so much potential for other shows. Hopefully something closer to the Midwest. I live in Indiana, so let's do something over here so I can come out to something.
Yeah.
But no, I do. I'm stoked for you guys. I think you guys are on the right path. I kind of made a comment to the buddy when I was telling him that I had you guys for an interview tonight. Like, you guys, and I've been doing this 20 years. I don't say this lightly. You guys are one of the bands that I'm telling people, like, it's got to be on your fucking radar, because I think this album is probably what pushes you to that next level where people go, oh shit, have you heard of Lightworker? Like, this shit's dope.
Damn. Well, thanks, dude. Wow. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, man. Like I said, I'll keep you posted on when this goes live and everything. And yeah, I'm stoked for you. Hopefully we'll be doing, obviously more of these down the road. And maybe the next one will be a live in-person one when you're in a Midwest tour. So
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
yeah, dope. I appreciate you so much, Grayson. I'm gonna go get some dinner. I don't know what your plans are, but I think Texas Roadhouse is calling my name.
Oh, get it. Yeah, my plan is going to rehearsal right now because the guys are there and we gotta prepare for this I Set to Kill run and we're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah, dope. Have a safe trip, man. Definitely we'll stay connected and see what happens.
Awesome. That sounds great. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a nice night, man.
All right, Josh, you too. See you, man.
See ya.